Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is January the 8th, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali's solar return. It's 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2023 on the Greek Roman civil calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the sovereign living justices. I am Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bey. All are in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state from Morocco. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are Washington District for Columbia, which is the ancient land. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today we are exercising the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient, intended Article 3, United States Supreme Court, the United States District for Columbia Court. All are ancient, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, secured creditors, the executors, trustees, ministers, possessors, and beneficiaries in this cause for action. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension, issue a universal creditor's bill for possession, which is 9/10 of the law, and custody, which is 1/10 of the law. For we are the law against all judgment debtors and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. We are at peace. We are not at war. Islam. So the first thing on our agenda today is this court is in Article 3. We are in our sovereign capacity, the Supreme Court for the United States, which are the ancient states united. And we do hereby state the following. This Supreme Court's jurisdiction is affirmed in Article 3, Section 2 of the Great Ancient Original Constitution for the United States, and further affirmed by federal law as written by this ancient congressional court. This Supreme Court's original jurisdiction applies to all causes, to include causes between states, actions involving public officials, causes between this sovereign United States and a state, and causes by a state between the nationals and the subjects in another state. Additionally, as codified in federal law at 28 United States Code, subsection 1251A, this Supreme Court has original jurisdiction over all causes to include the following 4 causes, meaning parties involved in these types of causes shall take them directly to this Supreme Court, superseding the appeals court process. Article 3, Section 2 states that for all causes affecting ambassadors, all other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party, this ancient original Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction at all times and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. For all other causes, this Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction both as to the law and fact without exception and in alignment with stated regulations as this Congress shall create. Under this Supreme Court's 1803 Marbury versus Madison ruling, no court nor any other shall alter the scope of this court's ancient original jurisdiction, nunc pro tunc. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. This introduction is in pursuant thereof a preliminary hearing to state for the record, on the record, and letting the record show this court's Article 3 jurisdiction on Thursday, January 12th, 2023, on the Greek Roman civilian calendar at 7 p.m. Eastern, and the dial-in information is on the screen at 425-436-6280. The access code is 368903. The video ID, Light Bay Moorish Nation 1. Video access is presented as previously mentioned. The cause for this action by this sovereign Supreme Court for the United States is we are stating original jurisdiction for the record regarding diversity in federal statement, Supreme Court cause number C08 CR22 000652. We hereby issue a quo warranto Mandamus Habeus Corpus Prohibitio Writ. It is United States, the original people, and Maryland, the land, versus Lisa Yates, Anthony Covington, Brian Moore, who are subjects here on our land. This court does state for the record, with full disclosure, that we acknowledge and affirm the true identity of Lamont Maurice Butler, who is birthed with the title for nobility of L. He has placed his true identity on the public record. Therefore, we affirm that we have received and do recognize him as an original indigenous sovereign living ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American, as he has stated. In the interest of equity, this court has not received any lawful or legal identification evidence from any of the other parties, therefore, in this cause of action. In accordance with the Citizenship and Expatriation Law, 1954, subsection A9, dated September 3rd, 1954, provided for forfeiture of subject status citizenship of persons advocating the overthrow of the government by force or violence. Additionally, right of expatriation, subsection 1999, provides that whereas the right for expatriation is a natural, national, and inherent right for all people, indispensable to the enjoyment for the rights for life, liberty, and the pursuit for happiness, and whereas in the recognition of this principle, this government has freely received immigrants from all societies and invested them with the rights of subject status citizenship, and whereas it is claimed and affirmed that such subjects with their defendants are no longer subjects of foreign states, they do therefore owe allegiance to this government henceforth. And whereas it is necessary to the maintenance for public peace that all claims for foreign allegiance are not recognized and shall be promptly and finally disavowed by all subjects in order for this right to be activated. Therefore, there shall be no declaration, instruction, opinion, order, or decision by any officer for the United States which denies, restricts, or impairs the peaceful right for expatriation. Any such action by any officer, any United States officer, shall be declared inconsistent with the fundamental principles for the Republic. And what this is stating is that subject status people who come here on this land do, by virtue of their stepping onto the lands of the Moors, are therefore subjects and do promptly and finally disavow any allegiance to any foreign state or foreign society, and do hereby owe allegiance to this government henceforth. So this nation, this land, this government, and this people are not at war. We are at peace, and peace does rule and reign on all our lands. And all of our lands means there's no land that any subject can go to that is not our land. Therefore, this expatriation law applies to all lands. These facts are the basis for this cause for action, as well as the expected certiorari writ to be placed on the record as pursuant to this action and in support of all that has already been placed on the public record thus far by all parties. Evidence from the public record in support of the basis for this preliminary hearing, this upcoming preliminary hearing by this court. There is video evidence of an incident that took place, and the date and all for that incident is listed here. So what we will do is put the link to all of this evidence in the chat so that this sovereign congressional court can review the evidence in preparation for this preliminary hearing that we are all going to be participating in. We, the people, are stating for the public record that this court does have original jurisdiction. And by this court, we mean all Moors present. So let me go ahead and put this evidence that has been placed on the public record into the chat so that this will give this honorable sovereign court and congressional court, Article 3 court, the ability to review the evidence in preparation for the preliminary hearing that we will be having this coming Thursday. Just one moment. Let me put this in the chat here. And, this court has reviewed the information. We've seen it on the public record, and many who are present have seen it on the public record. And just one moment. So what we want to do together, we're going to walk through this process, and we're going to move forward with judgment in this process. So we're all going to be looking at the same information, and we're all going to be, just one moment, let me put that in there once more. We're all going to be looking at the same information, and then what we want to do, based on everyone's understanding of this process, is we want to take a look at Supreme Court procedure for our creation, edit, and activation. We will be reconstructing Supreme Court procedure for our creation, edit, and activation, so that as we move through this process, we do so competently, we do so together in a unified manner, and do what is necessary in order for us to achieve the goal and accomplish the goal that we set out to accomplish once and for all. And it's really not once and for all. It's something ongoing that we'll be doing where Moors are concerned and where governing for this land is concerned. And this court, all of us, we will need all of the input as we all study this process together. So we are coordinating the process, but we need everyone's input because we need all eyes on the process so that we gain the result that we are looking for with regard to this cause for action and the freedom and setting free of all Moors who are held in these POW camps. So we need to just take the time, break the process down, overstand it, and activate it properly. We already know that we are the court, we are the law, we are the government. We know that. But we need to look at the procedures, edit them according to our sovereign will, and then place them on the public record, and then do proper notification in this process. And so, we want to first honor all who are a part of this process, to include all parties, so that we as the nation, the state, the government, the law, the people, activate our will on the land and make it something that we can repeat over and over and do, so that competent governing of the land is continuously achieved. We've achieved that in many areas, and we want to continue rising with regard to this court, this Congress, and the heirs on the land. So with that being stated, are there any questions about the process, about what we're doing, and about, here again is the date and time for the preliminary hearing? We want this sovereign court and Congress to review the information that's been placed in the chat, and that information will also be placed under this video on YouTube, so that any other justices who want to participate in the process of this Supreme Court reviewing the information and the evidence and stating for the public record that we recognize the Moorish American nationals who are in this process. And we also note that this court is the original indigenous ancient court where diversity for nationality and diversity for citizenship issues are brought peacefully. Are there any questions about what this court has just announced and what we will be proceeding with this coming Thursday? If you have any questions, you can star 6.
Will you talk about it when it fails, like you do it?
Are there any questions?
What are you going to do about it?
Are there any questions from the heirs, from this court? Islam.
I just think it's beautiful what you're doing.
Islam. Thank you, nobility. It's time. We need to approach the processes. Islam, there's a question in the chat that says, Islam, so what is the date that Brother Maurice must be released? In 1 day or 1 week or 1 month? We must give a definite date to prove our authority. That's a good question. If you could place in the chat where you have seen in the procedures where we have to give a date for that, then we'll be happy to look at that procedure. Can you state the procedure where you've seen that we must give a day, a week, a month, a year, or give a definite date to prove our authority? We're proving our authority by what we're doing. So we'll, throughout this meeting, you will have time to look up that procedure. And again, if you'll click on what we've put in the chat with regard to the resources, then you can take a look at those resources and see where in the procedures it says that has to happen. Okay? We want to do things competently. We appreciate competent questions by those who are involved in the process properly. Islam. And again, Supreme Court procedures are what we are implementing based on diversity issues. We do know that there are diversity issues as given by the evidence. Also, is there any more on this within this Congress who would like to submit or not submit but who would like to hand this court the writ, the certiorari writ. We have done it verbally, but as an exercise in proper court procedure for this Supreme Court, it would be beneficial for someone on this Congress to send a writ for certiorari. And we can take a look at that. In fact, let us, now that we've made the pronouncement and the proclamation on the public record with regard to what we are doing, I want us to take just a moment to look at the procedures that we will be editing and reconstructing with regard to this process. So it says here, and let's make this big enough for us to see it, writs of certiorari, and we call them certiorari writs. Parties who are not satisfied with the decision of a lower court must petition the U.S. Supreme Court to hear their case. The primary means to petition the court for review is to ask it to grant a writ of certiorari. This is a request that the Supreme Court order a lower court to send up the record of the case for review. The court usually is not under any obligation to hear these cases, and it usually only does so if the case could have national significance, not corporate significance, but national significance. Might harmonize conflicting decisions, which we're at peace, or could have precedential value. In fact, the court accepts 100 out of 100, or between 100 and 150 of the more than 7,000 cases that it is asked to review each year. Typically, the court hears cases that have been decided in either an appropriate U.S. Court of Appeals or the highest court in a given state if the state court decided a constitutional issue. And so we can restate this and say that whether a decision has been made or enacted by any court or any corporate court or fake court or lower court, or anyone doing business as a court. It does not matter whether a decision has been made or not. Where there are diversity issues, we are the only court lawfully and legally authorized to hear those cases. And who gave us the authorization? We did. We, the people, gave us the authorization to do so. And so we're going to take this case, this cause. It's a cause once it's up, elevated to this level of this Supreme Court, of which all Moors present by bloodline and birthright are a part and parcel. So this Supreme Court has its own set of rules. Okay, so we can set the rules. We can set the rules according to our will, as we have stated previously, with regard to the nationals, because this is a case that is going to be a model case for all other cases, and we're just going to take it a step at a time, so that we competently implement and activate and accomplish all that we set out to do. Justice Morpheus, I appreciate what you put in the chat. You said that you can send via certified mail the sovereign document. Islam, thank you for that. We'll work through each step together and go from there on this coming Thursday. But let's now take a moment to just again look at this portion, the certiorari, and what happens with it. Each justice is permitted to have between 3 or 4 law clerks per court term, and again, that's each one of us. These are individuals who fairly recently graduated from law school, and this is their this is from an inferior position. Where the Moors are concerned, let me explain that whole graduated from law school. By the time subjects graduate, quote unquote, graduate from quote unquote law school, they will have achieved maybe their third degree in the Masonic order. The third degree, not the 33rd degree, not the 360th degree, but the third degree. And so we know that upon proclamation of our national status, we supersede that. Just in knowing who we are, we supersede the 33rd degree, because it was our identity that was hidden by the 33rd degree Masons in the first place. And they did that not out of force or anything like that. They were commanded to do so and oath to keep it a secret until we woke up. And we wake up at our own choosing. So with that being stated, we want to just take a quick look at what the writ for certiorari. All it does is say we, this court, which is all of us, do hereby accept this case. And we have essentially done that already. We are stating the certiorari on the public record today so that it be known, and then putting it in writing is a matter for this court to do, to accept and to do. Because even the writ, the certiorari writ itself must be received or sent by someone who's in their proper status, whether it comes from a subject or whether it comes from one of the Moorish American nationals. They must provide proof of their proper status, with just a simple identification. So in order for cases, and this is for all cases coming to this court in the future, proper identification must accompany the writ for certiorari. So what we're doing today is just outlining the precepts by which this court is activated. And, we stay activated. We've been activated since ancient times. But at this point, we're manifesting on the land. Once again, and that's just this portion. We've always been on the land. But we're just, with this particular action, this calls for action, we're just taking our presence here to another level. So the writ for certiorari is a very simple writ. It can be one page with it, and it should state the information that we've placed here, and the writ, the certiorari writ, the certiorari writ, the certiorari writ. The certiorari writ, we appreciate that energy. We'll use that to complete this action. The certiorari writ, our response to those certiorari writs will be one of two responses. And in this case, our response to the writ will be to issue a quo warranto, Mandamus, Habeus Corpus, Prohibitio writ. And what that is that is one of the 13, that's several of the 13 great writs combined. And because we are an Article 3 court, we can combine them. We will do one of them in our national language on Moorish government letterhead that will accompany the certiorari writ in common English, and it will be sealed. It will have this Supreme Court for the United States seal at the top. And these are procedures for the Supreme Courts that will be manifesting at the territories, because obviously, we won't be handling every single case. The territory Supreme Courts will be handling the cases at their Supreme Court, and we're just simply stating the procedure by which that is done. And so this is the seal that will be on the documentation. It is the seal for the Supreme Court for the United States. Okay, and this seal will be at the top of a one to 2 page writ. Just one moment. As stated below. Just one moment. Let me make that a little smaller. Okay, so for those justices who will be hearing Article 3 causes for action at your territories, you know, the process will be that you receive a certiorari writ from someone who has properly identified themselves as either a Moorish American national or, and that can be from any lands, okay, a Moorish American national, or a subject, properly identified as a subject, based on the Citizenship and Expatriation Law 1954 that we have quoted. And then to that, we will review the certiorari writ. And the writ needs to have case number and information, evidence, and the writ will need to state the status of the parties. That is initially what we look at, is the status of the parties, because that's going to determine our involvement or whether it can be handled at a constitutionally inferior court. Okay, constitutionally inferior courts can hear cases where it's one subject and another subject of the same state. But anytime there's any diversity, then it has to come to the Article 3 courts, whether territorial or the Supreme Courts, which we all are, the Supreme Courts. The territorial Article 3 courts are Supreme Courts as well, as long as Moorish American nationals are governing. So with that being stated, this court does review all cases, all causes. So even if there was a cause from way back in the day, because there's no limitation, statute of limitations for fraud. And fraud is fraudulent status, fraudulent actions, fraudulent documentation, etc. So we'll take this case and let this case be one of many where because we've, as you all know, we've done many court actions on the public record to end the corporate madness that was going on, the fraudulent corporate madness that was going on the land. And now we're moving to diversity issues, specifically where the living are concerned. Those corpses before just needed to be removed, and now we're dealing with the issues that the nationals have on the land. So with that being stated, are there any questions or comments? We have what we're going to be studying and looking at in preparation for Thursday. And then on Thursday, we'll be issuing a statement from this court regarding original jurisdiction in that cause for action. Now, the quo warranto, and this is the reason we're issuing quo warranto Mandamus Habeus Corpus Prohibitio Writ. Quo warranto states that no lower court has the authority to govern diversity issues, Article 3 issues. That's what the quo warranto piece of that writ will state. The Mandamus portion of that writ will state that there is a command that all of the issues stated, that this court has sovereign jurisdiction over them. Habeus corpus says that if there are any living bodies that are being held with regard to this issue, those living bodies are to be set free, and they will appear if there are any further causes for action regarding this issue by this court. So whenever a living, breathing body is set free based on what we issue, that living, breathing body is stating that they will appear and be in alignment with, and in the case of subjects, obey the orders or the commands or the sentences or whatever it is with regard to their cause that this court issues. And then the prohibitio. The prohibitio will state, portion of the writ will state that all actions by any lower courts shall cease immediately based on the fact that they do not have proper authority, and that this court will be handling, or not handling, but issuing and ruling and governing whatever cause there is. Okay. And then we will be notifying properly any inferior courts as stated. One of the questions that we have been asked in the past is, do we need to order the records from the lower court? In some cases we will. In this particular case, it's not necessary. We could order them, and that's just a matter of pulling them up on the record and adding them to the file, because we can see them online. And we also know that one of the links that we put here is a link to part of that evidence as stated by Maurice Lamont Butler L., who is a party to this cause. And then there is video evidence of the incident for us to review. And initially, with this preliminary hearing, we're not talking subject matter at all. All we're looking at is there diversity? Is there diversity? And based on the evidence that we've seen, and the self-identification as well as the affirmed identification by this court with regard to Maurice Lamont Butler L., we know that he is a Moorish American national, and those who were involved in this videoed incident, there were some who were not Moorish American nationals. We've not received any evidence of who they are, and so we can state for the record that we know that they are not, because the evidence is on the record for the Moors, who the Moors are in this particular incident. And this is also, we don't want to leave out the other noble who was involved in this incident, who was appellationed in this incident, that I believe it's Justice Neale, or Noble Neale L., or Noble Neale Bay. We'll have to look back at the evidence and at the records to get his appellation as well, because we do want to add him to this. If anyone knows his appellation, if you could put that in the chat or state it or spell it, that would be helpful. Islam nobility.
One of the nobles that's also kidnapped was Eric Khalil Bey also.
Okay. Okay. Is that correct? What you have on the screen there? What we have on the screen?
And then the response will be.
Is that correct? What we have on the screen? Every court has a jester.
I believe so.
Okay.
Eric was the one that was. He was apprehended November, I think 3rd or something like that.
Was this the same video incident that we're discussing? We'll look at, before we add this, we will look back at the video and see, and then there is also a website on as part of this evidence that states who the Moors are in this.
He's actually one of their consular generals.
Was he involved in this particular incident?
Not in that particular one.
Okay, so right now we're dealing with this particular incident because we did see evidence on the public record of all. We could see the whole incident. And Maurice, I will say this is why it's important to provide evidence when things happen on the public record so that we can govern with full disclosure, documentation, affidavits that have been put forth, videos, anything that you can put on the public record. We ourselves have done that where we, in the past, we put video evidence and then we put up all the documentation so that this court could look at the documentation. And then we as a court, and then even you all as a court, a jury of our peers have ruled on things, on causes for action. So,
okay. Islam Empress.
Islam.
Yeah. Okay. I got the names. It's
the appellations.
The appellation. Yeah. George Neale Day.
I believe, yes. That's, I believe, the one.
And the
I
other
believe
one
that's the
Saamir,
one.
And the other one was Saamir King Ali.
And that was from the same.
Yeah. I think it's spelled Saamir, then King Ali.
Okay, I do remember seeing those appellations on some of the evidence that I read through in preparation for this meeting. And then we would like for each one who is on this call, and again, this is a real living exercise of our sovereign rights on the land as this court, as this Congress, and then also as a jury of the peers for those who will be participating in the jury pool. And the jury pool is all of us for this incident. Okay. And the reason we're doing this together is because it's important that we all proclaim together, that we all speak with one voice, and that we impartially, with full disclosure, know the processes. Okay? Because, Justice Morpheus, the question that you put in the chat, he put a question in the chat, and it's a great question. It says, a lien with reference to County of Charles Court in Maryland Corporation must be placed first, correct? Because he's not sure. Anytime, whether you know or not, that a lien has been placed, we generally go ahead and put a lien. Those who are in that territory, and even if you're not in that territory, because there may be causes for action that come up where there may not be any more at the territory to put a lien on the public record, then go ahead, please. as many Moors as possible. Put a lien on the public record. That way, the people are continuing to speak, and no one can say no to the people. When the people use the proper procedures, court-wise, no one can say no to the people. But we must come together and unify like we have done here, and we've proven we have a history, a track record of being together. Okay, and you know, we Justice Dawood put something interesting in the chat. He says our brother Lamont does not use liens, and that's okay. This court does, and so because this court uses liens, we will use them.
Islam, okay. Empress, if I may.
Islam.
For starters, concerning the liens, when you had mentioned the liens and the question that was posted in the chat about liens, I remembered and reflected just quickly about the lien that I had did on all New York State lien courts, the unified court system as they call it, prior to the 4 justices having their unlawful POW demonstration. So, and then I remembered that's another reason why they couldn't proceed with any corporate fiction, corporation, you know, anything, because they had been lien, and the brothers followed suit and took the exact same lien, made it their own, and put on the public record also, just like you had suggested that the people do concerning the corporation, you know, lien for every state, and thus and so. So
and
they
should proceed. The outcome for those brothers at New York was what it should be. There was
splendiferous.
Yes, 100%.
And so yes, and
proper procedure. That's proper procedure, because what people may not know about liens is that liens are a jurisdictional statement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Islam is that lien placed on the public record? We do have one of the nobility. Charles County was liened by this court on November 27, 2022, relative to our son Lamont Islam. That lien, if you could provide that lien to this court, and you are part of the court as well, so it is on the public record. Justice Morpheus, if you would provide that lien to Justice Morpheus as well, and if you could put a link to the lien in the chat, we will add it to the record as well. And again, it's already in the record because this is all of us doing this together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you would provide Justice Morpheus with that lien as well, Empress Karima, and then also if you could put a link to that lien in the chat so that everyone else can look at it, okay, and all of that. And Justice Sheikh Klein Bay, that's a great suggestion. You know, the state has the authority, which is us, the state and this court and this Congress, and we are all of those. We do have the authority to place liens on any and all, especially with regard to fraudulent actions. So, you know, the Moors that are involved may not, you know, if they've decided that they don't want to do liens, that's okay. This court exercises the right at all times, and for all prior liens that have been done, we exercise the right to those as well, because we have done liens and placed them on the public record with regard to all corpses and corporations. But all law is specific, which is why we want to ensure that with each incident that comes up, there's a lien, at least one additional lien filed, naming all parties pretending to be something that they're not on our land. Okay, and that's going to mean that all Moors need to be competent at the lien process. And we have plenty of those on the public record. We will show that lien or those liens. And Justice Morpheus, I believe you've done a lien on the state, quote unquote, state of Maryland. If we could have that, and we will just briefly show that the record contains these liens. So let me say, Empress Karima, do you have is there a number for this lien? Because we want to go ahead and add that lien to the evidence that we have thus far. And Justice Morpheus, if there is a number for
Islam, I'm going through my email records to pull that lien up.
Okay, thank you, Empress.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go ahead and add that as evidence. Here.
Okay, that lien was given MAC number L.
Just one moment. Go ahead, Empress.
So MACNL 00 9999111.
9999111.
Islam.
Okay, Islam. So if we could get that lien, just a copy of it sent to, you can send it to Justice Morpheus, but Empress also send it to if you could send it to the government at gmail.com as well, I'll receive it there. And please don't, others don't, we want to take this one cause and handle it properly. So please don't inundate the mail with things. We're looking for Empress Karima to send that lien, and then also Justice Morpheus to send any liens that you may have done, Justice Morpheus, where Maryland is concerned, or I'm sorry, State of Maryland Corporation is concerned, because we're Maryland the land, and we supersede all corpses and corporations. Okay, and we will look for Empress Karima. May I ask if these parties, any of the parties here, were included on that lien?
Islam, let me take a look.
Okay, and if not, we'll do an additional lien or an addendum to that lien, if you don't mind, Empress Karima, and add these three. If they're not on there, add these three as well as proper procedure for this cause.
Islam.
Okay, because these three came from the public record, and let's go ahead and show where this public record came from. And Moors, this is why also it is so important for Moors to be competent, because you can free yourself. You don't need anything or anyone to free you. You free yourself by what you know and what you demonstrate. And Justice Lamont put something on the public record that he hand wrote from his memory because of his study, and put that in the record of the inferior court, and who's pretending to hold him. Here it is. And this we pulled from the public record, and that's why it's important to to get either a social media page, a website, post it somewhere, or you can go to any of the Moorish American Consulate public records pages to put your documentation on the public record and then connect with other Moors at your territories so that they can put things on the public record for you if you've not done so. Okay, and this is where Lisa Yates, Anthony Covington, and Brian Moore, this is where that information came from as parties based on this, and it was accepted by the inferior court. So we acknowledge and recognize that these parties, because there's agreement between the inferior court and the Moor with regard to these parties, they accepted it that these are parties to the cause. Then this Supreme Court also acknowledges that they are parties to the cause. Now, Moors where parties to the cause are an issue, any Moor who even mails or can prove delivery with a delivery time and date, a truthful delivery time and date, and some proof of that you've sent an affidavit or hand delivered an affidavit or gotten a stamp for an affidavit. If you can prove that it was filed first with your court, because your court is superior to any of this other stuff, any other inferior courts, our courts are superior. And so your right red thumbprint is the seal and the date, and then you post it on the public record anywhere. And that does not require fiat to do that. Okay? And he had this posted on the public record, and the inferior courts agreed. And so that is why these names of these subjects are entered into the record as parties. Okay, and then he wrote some things here, and we're just again, this court at this point is reviewing what we have on the record in order to affirm our statement, further affirm our statement that we have original jurisdiction in this cause. And then there is a sovereign autograph here. Okay, and you know, we can reconstruct anything in this document. This court reserves the right to reconstruct it because based on the nationality laws that we have put forth. The nationality laws that we've put forth state that those of the original bloodline and birthright who state that they're Moors, they're Moors. How they state that, because we are in complete control of our state, our capitalism, and all of the above, however they state that, once they state that they are a Moor and of the bloodline and birthright, we accept and recognize them.
Islam, Empress.
Islam.
Angel Bay for the record. Let me just state that. And so, can we go back just for this part right here, the Fifth Amendment?
Yes, absolutely we can. Yes.
And perfected by control also, because
yes.
we perfect by control, and the rewritten Fifth Amendment is the one I was referring to.
Okay. And I believe we're looking here at electronic chattel paper may be perfected by control. We're looking at uniform commercial code, and we have rewritten this and made it a universal commercial code according to our own will and intention for our state and our nation and our government, our empire, and this court and Congress. This is perfection by control, a security interest in deposit accounts, electronic chattel paper, or letters for credit for us, rights is perfected by control in alignment with Section 9104, 9105, or 9107 when the secured party, and for us, when the sovereign heir who is party obtains control or authors control and remains perfected by control only while the secured party retains control. And, you know, that is actually true. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We are we've already perfected by control any outcomes for this particular action. We control the law, the land, and all because we are the law. I, self-law, am master for all of us and for our state, our nation, and our empire. You know, we all are the law. So that's perfection by control. We are perfecting, Empress Karima and Justice Morpheus have perfected the lien on anything related to those corporations, those pretend corporations, those acting as corporations, pretending to be government. Islam. Justice Sheikh Klein Bey, you're making some great suggestions. If you could do those suggestions that you've put in the chat, go ahead and do them. That will add to the record by this governing body. My mother always said, and I'll just state this as a side note, that you know, when we make suggestions, it's a lot of times those suggestions are brought to us so that we can activate them. And so, you know, if you get these thoughts that, oh, this should be done, that should be done, this should be done, go ahead and do it, and then hand it to the court. You know, place it on the record, because those are great suggestions. Justice Sheikh Klein Bey, and you know, those need to be done. Islam, because we can lien badge numbers and the like, so that even that badge, that there is a termination or a halt on any commerce done by that. Okay, because no fraud should be doing commerce on our land. None. No corpses, dead corpses should be doing, because we are not doing services, we're doing works. Public works, not public service. Okay. And Title 18 United States Code 241 and 242 is in the record, I believe. I believe we stated that earlier. And then also, Empress, you were referring to
yes,
the
Islam.
previously stated.
Yes, the Fifth Amendment.
Fifth Amendment from
we
edited. Okay, yes, Islam.
And I put, it's almost done sending. I created, I think I mentioned this to you in a other call, but I created an affidavit perfected by control, and so I'm sharing with the people. It's going to be in the chat momentarily. Oh, Islam. There it is.
Islam. We want to we want to make sure that we get all the evidence for this cause in the chat, you know, as well. We want to make that a priority. Thank you for sharing that information, Islam. So we'll take a look at Article 5, because Amendment 5, rather, the Fifth Amendment is precisely the issue with regard to this particular cause whereby a private corporation is attempting to privatize the public. And in this case, the republic, the government, and so we want to, based on, and that statement is made based on what we saw in the video. Okay. So, again, what we want to do, and we'll just put this here. Step 1, a certiorari writ sent to the Article 3 court, Supreme Court, and said Supreme Court shall have a stated Moorish American national at all times ruling. And then step 2 will be the action by the court who receives that certiorari writ to either issue a quo warranto, mandamus, habeas corpus, prohibitio writ, or to remand back to the constitutionally inferior court. Okay. And
Islam Empress, I'm sorry. Remember we did the Aliyah habeas corpus?
We did do that, yes. Yes.
Do you want me to send that one too?
If you don't mind, yes, so that they can take a look at that. For those who are not aware, and I'll go ahead and state with regard to the Aliyah habeas corpus, all Moors are part and parcel for this Aliyah habeas corpus that this government, this Congress, this court has put on the public record. That states that all Moors have returned, and actually all Moors were presumed to be off the land. We have always been on the land, we always will be, and we will not ever return to a fraudulent citizen status or a presumed status, because it was presumed. We've always been who we are, but we needed to state that competently on the public record, and so we did that. Those who were previously, and we won't even talk about them, but those who were the original ancient inhabitants for the chosen land, the promised land, which is earth, have returned, presumably returned, because we were always here. And what we're stating for the record is that all Moorish Americans have returned to the land, or are actually just appearing on the land, because we've always been here. But again, proper procedure is important in order to accomplish the things that we see for our nation, see for our state, and see for ourselves. We must use proper procedure. Okay? We wrote the procedures, and we are writing them again. So as, again, the Supreme Court is, we are privy to our own rules, but we want to look at the processes that are suggested and just say, hey, how, in the interest of order, we want to ensure that there is a stated order for events. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments about this particular cause for action? Islam. Okay. With that being stated, we want to move forward with this particular congressional assembly. I wanted to show you something that I came across and discussed with some of the empresses as well, because this is something that the ancestors showed us. It's an answer from the ancestral energies within us to something that I had been looking for a while, which is the connection between, you know, where is it in the systems, where is it that the Social Security number, and we again, we have nationalized everything, okay? The quote-unquote Social Security, and we don't use Social Security numbers, we have state security or sovereign security numbers, which are the same sequence of numbers but without the minuses. But I wanted to see in the system where that Social Security card or that Social Security insurance benefit, which it was supposed to be a benefit, and the birth certificate, where they meet up with the Treasury. I wanted to know what is it that joins them. Because, you know, many have been trying to access this and that and this and that benefit using those documents because someone said that they could do that. I wanted to know where those documents meet. And I should have known, and I did know in my spirit, but this put words to it, that they meet at a trust. So there was a trust created from ancient times, and we're going to put this in reference to what our ancestors did with state security and sovereign security, okay? So there was a trust that was formed between the National Banking Association. Anytime you see the word national this and national that, when we properly reconstruct and reform and restate that for our state and create it and author it here at our state in this jurisdiction, it's going to be a key indicator of where entitlements, Empress Rosetta, thank you for that piece, entitlements and benefits are. And so there was a trust created that made it so that our state security numbers are automatically, when they are created, they are placed in a trust entitled the National Banking Association, right? Yeah, National Banking. And in our case, it would be the National Banking Administration or Ministry Trust. And we can call it National Banking Association if we choose to. The Social Security system itself and the National Banking Association are in trust together, which means that and when I say Social Security, I mean lawful state security or sovereign security numbers that we create in our state. I'm not talking about anything dead unless I specify that I'm talking about the dead. But we need not focus on the dead anymore because they're dead. It says here on the screen, and this is something that I found in my research, a video that I saw on YouTube. It says banking laws, and I'm going to edit it according to our language that we use. It says banking laws, court rulings, trust laws, and the Constitution herself support the fact that every Al-Moroccan American aligned with our current creditor system has the ability to create credit because we are collateral providers and heirs for the National Banking Administration or Association, a trust via the state or sovereign security system. Our property and our energy have been willed as the collateral for the national credit and banking system. So wherever you see the word debt, whenever we speak about us, that word is not debt, it's actually credit, because it's impossible for us to create debt. It says our energy and our will, contracts and agreements between us, not with us and anything foreign, between the Moors and our ancestors, produce future contract performance value, which is credit. Our energy is real substance collateral for our system. As such, we are the remedy because we're the government, and even for our national corporations and companies and commerce, credit. We do have money and we do have substance to exchange with. And by credit, we mean public bills, taxes, other institutional claims, and even court charges. Now, here it says are a true bill, but what's really being stated here is that when we reconstruct the documents that fake courts, fake utility companies, fake corporations have been sending to their courts, when we reconstruct them, and we stated this before in the past, but we want to continue to show it because it keeps being affirmed. When we reconstruct those documents, they then become a true bill. It's not a true bill if it doesn't come from us. We are the author, authority, and finisher for our own full faith and trust and credit. And in the Biblios Heliothèque, it says, Je suis. The je suis means I am in French, and that's all of us can say that. Je suis, the author and finisher for our faith. And our faith is simply credit. That means we have full faith and credit in ourselves. As the creditors, only we can create a true bill. And that's what reconstruction is all about. Therefore, we are our remedy, and we don't order the issuing of credit. We actually issue the credit, okay, via the trust. And here they put Social Security credit system. They didn't just say Social Security system. They said the credit system. It's a sovereign or our state security credit system because we're the creditors. They know how to change up their language when it's time to change up their language to point. By acceptance of our own reconstructed negotiable instruments, we then state for the record, and then we return them as instruments to ourselves because we're the trustees. And how do we do that? We just put it on the public record and state that it is the law. And that will discharge credit. See, they kept talking about discharging debt, but we don't have any debt to discharge, so we discharge credit. I've done this demonstration twice, and both times it worked. Both times it worked. Recently. And so, again, The the sovereign security number or our state security numbers meet at the bank or the treasury by way of a trust that we're stating that's on the record. We put it on the record years ago. Okay, but we needed to know how to activate it. And the way that we activate our credit is to state that we're the creditors. And then any documents that we list in our affidavits, we take the debt out of those documents and make sure that that wherever it said debt, we say credit. Okay, wherever it said debt, we say credit, period. And then we accept our own documents. And then when we're talking about our documents, I want to make this really clear, Maurice, that the public bills, we talked about public. So when you do things that are public things, you want to make sure that you put a public flag even on your affidavits. This flag, sorry, it's not a flag, it's a banner. This banner right here is a public banner for amity and commerce, which means the stars lead the way and the stripes are on the back. And when things are done competently this way, in this manner, then the Treasury is automatically accessed. And we're going to be putting more documentation out there. Our courts are underwritten, interwritten, overwritten, and I won't say overwritten, but interwritten by the Treasury that we, all of us, have access to. Okay, so for those more who have not been in the previous classes, just for the sake of brevity, this, and I'll just use this number as an example. This number is a sovereign security number, and let me show you just the difference. Oops. This is a sovereign security number in red and all lowercase letters. And then this is our state security number, Empire State, the government. This is our government. This is a commercial number. Now, for each one of us, where did this number come from? This number came from when we were asleep. The funny mirror that we've been looking in, thinking that the things we saw in this funny mirror were real, they issued a fraudulent black, let me just clarify this. They issued a fraudulent black debtor number they called it a let me make sure we put this in brackets, because again, this was not something that we wrote. This is something that frauds wrote. And so what we did was we did a court action and stopped and terminated all actions. That's what liens do. They terminate this thing's or this previous thing ability to do any commerce. Okay, and then in its place, because this is chess, not checkers, we put something in its place that is sovereign and original and indigenous. So we said, first we put it in red in all lowercase letters, and then we did a state commercial number. issued by it's a federal Empire State number, state security number, and it's this one, okay? And so this one we do commerce with. This one is our sovereign government identification number. And this number does not identify us. It identifies our status as entitled to benefits. Okay? So with the leaning of this number, then no one could fraudulently enact trying to go to a treasury, a debtor treasury, and getting anything from a debtor treasury, and then trying to pass that debt off on us. So what do? Whenever we were receiving anything, and again, we weren't receiving it, the corpse was receiving it that they created. All we do is lien it out of business because it's a debtor, and then we put the truth. No, there are no dashes or anything in these numbers. We could have put plus signs, okay? We could have done that, or we could have just left spaces, and we chose to leave spaces, okay? So, and what makes this ours is that we wrote it. It is written by the living. It's not written by the dead, so the dead don't control it. We do. And that goes back again to what Empress Angel brought up earlier, perfection by control, that we looked at earlier. Okay? We control, it's perfected. The Treasury is perfected. Our creditor actions are perfected by our control of them. Okay? And so we've been looking to see, what is the connection? How are these things used in order to eliminate, or to actually not eliminate, but to exercise our credit. And so one of the demonstrations that we did where we exercised our credit was the one that we showed you a few videos back, where there was a quote-unquote ticket issued, a camera ticket issued by frauds. So what did we do? We said, okay, we're going to issue some credit with regard to this. And we issued the credit to our government. And we showed that we issued that credit to our government using our state security number. And all we did was create a document, send some more sovereign dolarium to our government. Our government accepted it, and anything that was out there regarding that disappeared. And it didn't disappear, it just showed resolved or dismissed or non-existent, really, because it didn't really exist in the first place. Okay, because a true bill was created. And I'll put the link to where I found this information in the chat. Hopefully, let me see. I'll put it under this video. Okay. Now, I did some more digging and some more looking into this process about this system that we speak to, because again, we speak to systems, we don't speak to persons. Okay, I didn't have to make any phone calls to anyone regarding what we're doing. What the demonstration that I did, I didn't make any phone calls. What I did was did the demonstration and put it on the public record and notify. That's what we did. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, thank you, Justice Morpheus. So for the record, the preliminary hearing, in preparation for the preliminary hearing that we'll be doing on Thursday, Justice Morpheus says that there are 3 liens that have been placed on the record: Baltimore, Chestertown, County of Kent, and Elton, Queen Anne, Cecil County, Maryland, sent via email They were placed on the public record months ago. Delarium were attached to most of them with other sovereign documentation. Islam. Thank you, Justice Morpheus. So we will go ahead and take a look at that as well. I did a little digging, went to the quote-unquote Social Security website. And again, it's a corporate website, so we reconstruct and re-edit everything. And this is what I found with regard to that trust that we mentioned about bank accounts and the National Banking Association and the Social Security number being put together. We found where they're admitting that they put those together, allegedly, okay, the fraudulent version of it. We have done the true version of it, the true law of it. It says here, this, and again, this is from this website here, placed at the bottom of this statement. During the initial claims process, so they're saying from the very beginning, applicants and recipients were required to report their resources to ensure they are eligible for SSI. And it says their studies, not the law, because they're not the law. They're not even Social Security. We're the original Social Security, because there is no security other than within our state. It says our studies found that money above the resource limit held by SSI recipients is a leading cause of payment errors. Okay, now more just note that whenever they say you start using terms such as recipient, that means you're no longer a beneficiary or an entitled heir. You're a recipient. They change it to let you know that it's not a benefit. In fact, they're telling you that they're eating off of you. Okay, it says as a result, they examined alternatives to the traditional SSI asset verification practices of recipient self-reporting and direct contacts with financial institutions. Now, this is where we say we've always been speaking to systems and not to persons. It says the access to financial institutions process is an effective means of reducing errors with those aspects of SSI. Access to financial institutions is an automated process. So again, that they're telling you there that they don't really have anything to do with the process unless you pull them into the process by picking up the phone, talking to them instead of sending the word, knowing that you speak to the systems. It says AFI is an automated process that verifies alleged, which means that's a court action, alleged bank account balances with financial institutions, et cetera, held by applicants, recipients, and DMORs. DMORs. And of course, I had to look that up because they put that in here, but they didn't put it up here. In the talking about the initial claims process, they just said applicants and recipients. They didn't say anything about DMORs. And so we'll discuss that briefly because, again, we're talking about court actions. When our court speaks and our court affirms bank accounts and balances, because we're the only ones that can do that, then we speak to the system and the system does exactly what it's supposed to do. It says, in addition to verifying alleged bank accounts, because they already know that any bank account that's claimed to be in a fraudulent system is not a bank account. And they're going to state that that's not a bank account because they're not Social Security. AFI detects undisclosed accounts using unique search criteria called geographic searches. Geographic and jurisdiction are the same word. We conduct up to 10 geographic searches per individual for each review. We use AFI to verify financial accounts. In other words, all they're doing is third-party interloping into an automated process. But they can't do that when our court speaks, okay? And that's the purpose of those 40 red documents that we put on the public record first, and then we speak from our proper status as CEOs of all companies and corporations, as fiduciaries, as attorneys in fact, as trustees, and entitled heirs. And then this is where that comes from, SSA.gov, improper payments, etc. So then I looked up DMOR, and I knew what DMOR meant when I saw the word. A DMOR is generally the ineligible parent or spouse. That means that's someone who has the authority. They use the term DMOR because that's what we said at first. When we first set the system up, we said call them DMORs. The more. Okay? It says a DMOR is generally the ineligible fiduciary, trustee, attorney in fact of the individual who's eligible for or receiving SSI. We consider the DMOR's income and resources when determining the SSI recipient's eligibility and payment amount. The gross wages of your DMOR must also be reported to Social Security every month. A DMOR is one who is ineligible by way of the fact that they make way too much or they're worth way too much to even be eligible for SSI. Okay, but that even has to be properly stated. And so the DMOR is going to be, again, the fiduciary, trustee, or attorney in fact for the all caps name, either the all caps or the in capitis diminutio minima. Okay? And so the DMOR, just one moment. Here, and I'll just put a quick example. I hear you, Empress.
I just opened the mic as soon as it cut off.
Islam. And we call it 4. Beneficiary. Okay. And Pauline Denise Ritchie, for example, if I were on, if Pauline Denise Ritchie, the minor, if she was on SSI, which, you know, she's not, but I'm just using that as an example. If she was on receiving SSI benefits, then Pauline Denise Ritchie, the fiduciary trustee instrument, would be the DMOR. Okay. Now, Morris, I will say this, as our banking and our estate manifest, those who are receiving things like unemployment, or not unemployment, but if you're receiving any income-based entitlements, those entitlements will stay in place for as long as, you know, while the claiming of the estate manifests. But full claiming of our estate is going to mean that a lot of that will go away because your income will be too high. It will be too much to even qualify for any of these processes. These processes were originally like Social Security, unemployment and all of that, those income-based processes were originally meant for the subjects who came here. And let's say they worked up until a certain age on the land, and then they couldn't work anymore, or they became handicapped, or they had a spouse who was a surviving widow or widower, then they would be eligible for these. But for us, our estate is the value of our estate would mean that, we're not eligible for any of these. We would actually be governing these processes. And again, that's a transition. It's happening over time. Okay. Let's see. Yes, all of that includes military retirement. Military, you earn that retirement. Military, any of that stuff, that stays in place just because you've earned it. Abraham Lincoln actually put veterans' entitlements in place, or he just affirmed them. He affirmed veterans' entitlements and wrote and affirmed the mission statement for veterans. So those will stay in place. So, but they must be properly proclaimed and all of that. As we go along. And again, there's no need to fear or worry. Everyone's going to be taken care of. Everything is gonna happen over time. It's happening faster and faster, and that's another reason why it's important for us to go ahead and do what we're doing. With that being stated, are there any other questions or comments regarding any of the things that we've said and done, or stated and done at this point? You can star 6 if you have any questions, comments, wisdom, anything that you want to put on the public record in preparation for the preliminary hearing coming up this coming Thursday. This is part 1 of that preliminary hearing because, but we want everyone involved in the preliminary hearing, and that's why we're presenting it in this manner. Because we're all going to have to do this for all Moors, who are held in those places, or who've had issues happen non-pro-tunc. Any questions, comments of any? Oh, okay. With that being stated, I believe that is all that we have for this particular meeting. Just one moment. Yes, okay. So, are there any comments, questions, etc.?
Oh, Islam, was everybody who needed the documents, were they able to download them? The 2 that I put in the chat?
And then please take a look at the chat. And there are some, yes. Justice Akil put www.enforcetheconstitution.org in the chat. I'll put it in there again. Thank you, Justice Akil, because there is further evidence on that website. It's the public record in preparation for the preliminary hearing on this coming Thursday, January 12, 2023, on the Greek-Roman civilian calendar at 7 p.m. And the information it will be again at the same place. It's a preliminary hearing to state Article 3, original jurisdiction over that cause for action. Islam. So please take a look at enforcetheconstitution.org as well. And then I believe there's we put the link to the video of the incident in question. And it's not a question by us. We already know for sure what we have seen and reviewed. Islam nobility.
Yeah. Also on that website is the actual habeas corpus for all anyone who wants to review it.
Okay. Can you provide that habeas corpus? Because I believe I went to the website, but there was some type of a sign-in or something, and I didn't do the sign-in piece, but I did see previously where they had everyone had access to all of the documentation, so that's where the letter came from, or the affidavit.
I have it, but I can't do it. I can't send it from my phone right now. But what I'll do is send it to your email.
Okay. So, and then those who, thank you, Justice Akil, and then those who go to the website, or any website for that matter, just ensure that you do a termination for all corporate contracts, or that you have one on the public record non-proton. You know, because and it's not that's not any indication of anything in terms of any particular website. But we want to ensure that we have terminations for all corporate contracts on the public record, so that there is no presumed claim with regard to us looking at information on the internet. You know, when you're talking about signing in and all of that stuff, we can do it. We just need to make sure that our intention is on the public record when we do things like that.
Islam?
Yes, Islam.
Islam. This is Emma Collin Bay. I haven't been on the calls, but I've been doing a lot of catching up with your videos, and I wanted to compliment you. So over the last 2 years, on how well you're doing on all levels. I'm very impressed.
Islam.
And I had a couple of questions about some of the things I was looking at, and I was wondering, what are the 40 documents?
The 40 documents are they'll be under these videos as well. There's a link to a file that has those documents. The 40 documents are documents that we have done from our heavenly or from our divine station. Our divinity is in the bloodline and birthright, and those documents are in red in all lowercase letters, and in most cases it's in ancient English. It just states that we know our authority, we know who we are. It's the name change and judicial proclamation. It's also documents that state that we know that we're the presidents, we're the governors, we're the secretaries for sovereign state. We are the CEOs of all companies, corporations, and resources, living ones. We are also the currency controllers. Okay, so in that previous system, they had an office called the comptroller of the currency, which is not an office. We've done removals on all of that. That's part of the 40 documents as well. You know, so those documents just there's also documents such in that list such as unum sanctum, where from our divinity, and that's what the red documents state. They state that we know that we're the divinity on the land. The Savior speaks in red. Okay, so, you know, many have heard of red letter edition Bibles, and all the words of Je suis, which is the great I am for all of us. Those words were put in red because they're spoken by the one and only Savior and Deliverer, which is us. Okay, and so Justice Dawood has put the writ for Justice Lamont in the chat as well. So those 40 documents just state in different ways our sovereign divine authority, both in heaven and in earth. Whatsoever we bind on earth is bound in heaven. Whatsoever we bind in heaven is bound on earth, and etc. And whatsoever we loose on earth is loosed in heaven. but we state it from our divinity first. That's what the red documents do. They also state that we're the popes, that we're the heads of all militaries. We're on the land, and red is also an indication of the land jurisdiction. Islam.
Okay, Islam. And one other question is, I was wondering if I could have someone email over the dollarum or the money that we're going to be using.
Yes. Let me just check. Rayvana, where are you? There's someone who's I'll give you whatever is put in the chat with regard to Delarium. You can just look at it here because they can see you on this side. Don't come on this side.
Yeah,
just look on this screen right here.
I tried to get in, but it was too late. I got locked out. So
okay. Did you want to? How do you do you have WhatsApp? Because you can send it to me via WhatsApp. You can send your email to me via WhatsApp or unless you don't mind it being on the public record on this call. If you want to state it here, you can.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
If you're ready.
I am.
Okay, so it's M as in maybe.
Mm-hmm.
AR.
Mm-hmm.
TH.
Mm-hmm.
UR.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's McCullen, so that's M. CC. OLL.
Mm-hmm.
2 L's. IN.
COLLINM.
Yeah, it's M. Arthur McCullen @gmail.com. So it's MCCOLLIN Bay BEY.
Oh, McCullen
@gmail.com. Yes.
Bay
McCullen.
at gmail.com. Okay. We will forward the Delarium to you. I'll have my trusty assistant. I believe so. I don't see any more in the chat. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Have you checked the email, Empress Rayvana, to see if there are any requests for Delarium there? You'll have to do that when you have a chance because that's where the majority of them come in at.
Yeah, I sent one to the government.com, but it's kicking back and saying that it doesn't exist. So I think what I was doing was spelling it wrong.
Yeah. It has an E on the end.
Yeah, I made sure I put that one in today.
It's the government at gmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat as well. The government, THE, at gmail.com. That email it fills up pretty quickly, and so we have to go in and empty it as often as possible, or not empty it, but clear it as often as possible.
Okay. I have one other thing to tell you.
Yes.
I live over here in the land, the Abenaki land, and doing some research, I was really amazed with how big the land mass is. So it stretches all the way up to Canada from here, from New Hampshire, or so-called New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Maine. And so I was looking for the coordinate for that. So I went to the Indigenous Center. I went to the State Library. I know they have it. They just don't want to give it to me, but I'm not giving up. So if I want to, go ahead and do things in Canada, I guess I just don't know how to do that. I know they speak another language. So I'm wondering, if there's someone who's available, if there's someone that could help me with that, because I want to, lawyerize all the land, and then also including, on our paperwork when we put our addresses,
our mailing locations.
Yes, their state house no longer exists because we've leaned it, but also Bush, the young one, threw out all state of in 1999. So it doesn't exist for them. It definitely doesn't exist as far as we're concerned. And so we use the word territory, and I'm wondering if that's the same thing. Because I was told territory could be corporate. And I'm wondering if it's better just to use the land and then to put the whole coordinate in, or the coordinate in for where I am, because I don't want to parallel their state. I don't want to give
So anything written by the heirs or the subjects, anything written, whoever the author is gets to determine what they're talking about. So when we say, for example, Maryland, we're automatically talking about the land because we are the land and we're the law for the land. So when you're talking about New Hampshire, there's no state of New Hampshire, there's just New Hampshire.
Okay.
Because
what they're doing on the paperwork is putting New Hampshire, state. So, I jumped all over, I jumped all over that too, because I know it's a sneaky way of them still trying to do their hypothecations.
If they write it, we just reconstruct it properly. No matter what they write, we reconstruct it.
Okay.
From start to finish.
So, all right. Now, I don't want to take up all this time, but I know I saw you one time. It was a couple years back. You had joined somebody who won a court case for a lot of credits. So I've been doing some research on part of my frustration is with all this documentation, most of these people are not moving. I know when I go to their so-called courts, they get afraid and run out of the room. And, so it's a quick fix to the problem. But now I'm learning to extend it all the way to the end with the writs, thanks to you. And so I'm wondering, what is our jurisdiction in a federal court? And if we do lawsuits against them, that usually kind of helps them to stop doing what they're doing. So can we bring lawsuits against them in a federal court?
We are the federal court. And so lawsuits can be brought at any time. We're the federal court on the land. And so anything where there's diversity involved, our courts would handle that.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that it seems that this lady took a case to their federal court and, stood up as a national, as a Moore, and won. So I'm wondering how we can do that in our own jurisdiction, still going to that jurisdiction. And
so here's the issue with that. Even if those inferior courts agree with you, they don't have any resources lest they come through us. So they couldn't even, despite the fact that there was a large number of credits awarded, until those credits, the Empress that won them, she can nationalize the credit. She would need to do that and nationalize the credits and nationalize or reconstruct the award. That is how the collection of those credits happens. They must be nationalized because that's our treasury is the only treasury that has credits in it. No other treasury exists even. And that's why they awarded something, but they didn't have anything to give. And to this day, there's not been collection of one dime on that because it was done in a court that doesn't have anything. It's a debtor court.
Okay.
So it has to come by way of our courts. And then we've talked about how the state security numbers and sovereign security numbers in trust with the National Banking Ministry or Administration Association, and we can call it whatever we want to call it as long as we're the ones calling it and naming it. That is how awards are granted and credits are granted and put forth. And I've done it myself twice already, and it worked like a charm.
Okay. All right. And I have one more. This is it.
Sure.
This is an accumulation of over a few months here. So I've been looking into Phoenician law lifestyle. There's a wonderful YouTube site called NWPU. It's in all caps, but they give a lot of information I think would interest everyone. And so the Phoenician laws, is it okay that we go and delve into those laws? I mean, there's all kinds of different types of laws. Can we apply that to our work, our paperwork and documents?
Oh, absolutely. as long as you're actually constructing it, then you can. It doesn't matter what we're looking at. It all started with us anyway, so it must continue with us. You know, so as long as you're the author of it, you must reconstruct it, though. You cannot accept it in the condition that it's in, because everything that was out there was corrupted.
Yeah.
And so we have to rewrite it. And when we rewrite it and express it on our affidavits and our documents, then it becomes uncorrupt and becomes the law.
All right. So I know that there's, two different dynasties, the Phoenician, Egyptians, and the Ptolemies. Now, the Ptolemies, I may not be saying it right.
There are way more than that, but yes.
Were they corrupt? I mean, are they a part of the good lawful scene, or, are they really descendants? Yeah.
This is how you know who's corrupt and who's not corrupt. Whatever it is that you're reading, just investigate who wrote it. If it's not written by one of the heirs, one of the Moors, then it's coming from a corrupt source.
Okay.
And it's only when we reconstruct it right now today that it becomes an uncorrupt, inalienable document and information. It must come from us. It must be constructed by us. It must be authored by us, no matter what it is you see out there. But you can look at the information now. Now, do look at all information, and then take that information, whatever, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter what the information is. We can make it uncorrupt and use it in some way in our nation.
Okay.
Islam, and for a quick example of that would be the Fifth Amendment that we did just this past, Thursday, and how because we've all been stating, the Constitution is their charter, and that's how we enforce them to do what they're supposed to do on the land as far as commerce is concerned. But even then, that had to be reconstructed by us. Yes. And so that's just one example of many that shows that that part for the reconstruction.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I had one other question. I've done a lot of research on it. So with NWPU, that site, they give out, information like you would believe, and they talk about the origins of their people, how a lot of what's going on with their bodies, all of our bodies are changing. Ours are going for the better. Theirs are decreasing in health. And it's because of what they were made of. We are a species, so we as one have to take responsibility. So, yes, when they say we created them, that is very true. But they came about, the men left the camps and were going into our indigenous lands and doing all kinds of horrible things to carry on their bloodlines. And that's what Desert Storm was really about. Mm-hmm. And the female means woman. The word woman, that belongs to us. So I'm not going to give them to that. But they're beings that were able to get pregnant, started getting impregnated by the jackal, which created the ape, then the ape man, then the Neanderthal. And that's how they restarted their so-called white race over again. So because of the things that they're made of.
Yeah, it's not a white race. That's a black race that you're referring to. The pale-skinned black races. Yeah, they're actually
Canaanites and Pflugervoids, who were Jacob's grafted race from the so-called Indian man, and then Canaan. Okay, so they lost.
Let me say this about all of that. We don't want to go too far into that because there's a lot of misconceptions. Because again, we've been looking in a funny mirror, and they've been saying that one race is this and that and grafted in, when actually they're the original indigenous. So the Canaanites and the Moabites are original and indigenous. But again, we're the original and indigenous for all lands. Okay?
Okay.
So
the other thing is
for everything that's original and indigenous, there was a fraudulent copy, a dead, pale, fraudulent copy that was made. And that's why I say we have to recreate or reform, reconstruct, recreate everything, all of the information that's out there. And as we're recreating it, our original indigenous spirit will speak through us and manifest on the paper the truth.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, my
So
concern,
now,
my concern is that, you know, the resources are ours, so there are no longer any four corners to remove in the courtroom, and they're not supposed to have anything to do with our resources. And I thought back to when you say, you know, even the sandwiches that they eat belong to us. And, you know, somebody complained about it, but I found that that is true because it's a resource that comes from our resources.
When you say somebody complained about it, who complained about it?
Oh, someone was saying, I remember just reading somewhere, like, and it probably was one of those guys that harass you all the time. They're like, oh, she said something about that we even pay we pay for their sandwiches or something. And it's true, because any resource, including air, water, food, you know, clothing, comes from us, and they need to have permission from us before they use it. So, you know, I'm thinking in the courtroom that, you know, their bodies have changed, the energy that comes from the body has changed, and even when they breathe on each other, they're making each other sick. You know, but we're in an environment
what is your concern? Because
is that I mean, I guess I'm wondering if they're even supposed to be putting their cells in their bodies. You know, full identification would be who they are, where they're. I'm not going to use the word origin, but you know where they come from. Is that part of the legal process that they're supposed to be doing?
So let's put it this way. When they do their study, and they already know where they stand. They stand as subjects to the Moors, and they already know how to state that. And when I say state that, that means they already know what to do.
Well,
and
the
so
condition of their
we're not really.
bodies.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
We're really not going to spend a lot of time talking about them, because what we're doing is not about them, it's about us.
Right.
They already know what to do with regard to their status. They've always known what to do with regard to their status. So our focus is going to remain on the heirs, just like everyone else's focus has been on us. We just didn't know it. And it's time that we put our focus back on ourselves. So we don't want to spend a lot of time talking about their bodies, because this is actually not about faces either. It's not about three-dimensional things.
What I'm trying to say is that all of them are sick. You know, they have a DNA that's very powerful, and it's pure filth. And that's why Mr. T said, you know, you're filth. Then they did the shutdown, and it's illegal to.
They're not very powerful. There's no one more powerful than the Moors.
Well, I just don't want to, you know, in a legal way, I don't want to have to be subject to putting my body and putting, you know, my face close enough to them, you know, with them touching us. I believe that this is why the sheriff was put in place, so that we wouldn't have that kind of contact. Okay,
if you don't want your body to be in contact with theirs, even though that's not really what this is about. This is about the spiritual aspect of it, and then also the three-dimensional manifestation of who we are. When we are who we are, we won't have those things to worry about, you know. So my suggestion to you would be to focus your concern, because it seems to be a little bit more balanced on or focused on them than it is on you. And I would suggest that you refocus back on you. And when you properly state who you are, you won't have to worry about the things that you're worried about.
Right. And, you know, and I thought the best way to do this is why I dedicated all of my time every day, you know, to the study of who we are and the laws, you know, and in that way I'm freeing myself. I'm building my spirituality, and I'm going to be in a position where, you know, I'm not going to have that kind of contact. But I think for a lot of us, you know, if we're getting arrested or having to go to these grocery stores, I can see where it's going to be much better. But I thought, you know, in my writing is, you know, can I mention that, you know, don't forget you're using resources illegally and so on and so forth.
So if you're speaking to them, I would just say, why speak to them if they bother you so much? You know, and that's a rhetorical question for you to answer in your own time. We don't speak to them. We speak to the living because, you know, that's because we're alive, we're living, and so, you know, from this point, I would just suggest that you spend your time focusing on you, because our prophet Noble Drew Ali said, know thyself and study yourself. And when you study yourself, and when you're done studying yourself, study yourself some more.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. And so that's what we do. We're studying ourselves. We're not really concerned with anyone else, simply because everyone else will be right where they're supposed to be when we are our proper selves.
Okay.
Period. Are there any other questions? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from anyone else here on this call? Any other questions from any of the Moors here on this call?
No, Empress.
Islam. Okay, so we thank those who have contributed to this Congressional Assembly. We're going to continue this assembly on Thursday, the 12th. And from this point forward, again, Moors, congratulations. Oh, I did want to mention, I wanted to congratulate all Moors who have completed the 3-day fast that we just completed, where we did water only or fasted from negative energy or whatever. And then I also want to congratulate those that are completing the additional 40-day fast that we're on, where we are staying away from all land animals. We're not eating any chicken or turkey or, you know, we started that on December 21st, and we're going to continue that through to January 31st for those who have assented to participate. And we want to congratulate you on the accomplishments and to your health, because we know that each time we fast, we're cleaning out a little deeper into our bodies so that we can hear, and so that we can ensure that our pineal gland stays clear, and that our spirit stays clear, and that we keep our energy moving forward. Okay? And that we need to, and that also helps us to continue to unify. Okay? And so with that being stated, peace and grand rising to the sovereign original
Islam,
indigenous
happy solar return to the prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Islam.
We did say that initially. We said that twice already, but we'll say it again.
Islam for the third time, yes.
Return to our prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Islam.
Islam. And I think this is appropriate to celebrate his solar return by moving forth with our Article 3 courts as well.
Islam.
So we will see you all on Thursday. Peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Peace and
grand rising.
You fired.
Islam.
Islam, did you get my email?
Are you referring to me?
Yes.
Which email is that? I have not checked emails yet, but I will take a look.
I just sent it inside the chat for the same information that the other Empress was referring to.
Okay. Is this Empress Camellia?
Yes, that's me.
Yes, I do have that for the Delarium, and yes, I have it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Empress. Peace.
Hashem.
Hashem. And we will thank you, nobility. Peace.